If you find world building to be super overwhelming and you're tired of trying to keep track of everything in your head, I get you. For the longest time, I just kept everything I knew about my novel's world in my head. Thankfully, I found the best way to streamline the writing process through a combination of analog and digital tools. That's why in today's vlog, I'm going to walk you through my entire world building process. This includes everything from how I plan my time as a mom with two littles to my entire organizational process for my world building Bible. This is literally all you need for your world building Bible. It's nothing complicated. You don't have to learn Notion in order to do it. It's super simple. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is how I actually make time to write my book, because I think this is a pretty big hurdle for a lot of people, not just moms, but even if you're a student or, if you're working a full-time job, there's always some sort of thing to get in the way of actually sitting down and writing the book that you are super passionate about writing. So that's why I want to be super honest with you about my time management. First off, you may have noticed if you've been watching my videos for a while that I don't always film in the middle of the day. Sometimes it is at evening time, and that's because the times that I choose to film are the times when my children are otherwise occupied, usually with sleep. And that's because in order to focus, I can't have any distraction. Otherwise, my children will be constantly interrupting me, or they'll be crying or screaming or getting into fights or just doing something to distract my attention from what I'm doing. And so I have about 1 to 2 hours in the afternoon when they're napping, and then another 2 to 3 hours in the evenings while my husband is at work and the girls are napping. So on a good week, I might have a total of 8 hours that I can actually use to work on my YouTube channel and work on my book. So I have to be very, very strategic about how I use my time. And one of my favorite ways to do that is with bullet journaling. Now, I'm not sure if you've heard about bullet journaling, but bullet journaling has made a huge difference in my life. Before I had my twins, I never managed my time. I had no plan for my life, I had no goals, and I was just kind of floating along wondering what on earth I was doing. And then once I actually found bullet journaling, I realized how good it felt to be organized. And so I'm just going to give you a real brief overview of how I actually use bullet journaling to organize my time. And ultimately what you need to be thinking about is, when do you actually have time to work on your book? It doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes or if it's 2 hours. Just finding a little bit of time to get even 20 words in is the difference between whether or not you actually write your book. Now, bullet journaling is one of those things that I think looks really intimidating to do, but then once you actually do it, it's a lot simpler than you think. I'm using this journal right now, and I got this from a friend for my travels to Japan, but I didn't go to Japan, so I decided I love this journal so much, why not use it for bullet journaling? But you don't need anything complicated. This is actually my very first bullet journal. It's just like a $2 composition notebook, or maybe it was more than that, I'm not sure. But it's really simple, and I used this one while I was planning for my wedding with my husband. They fill up a lot faster than you think they do, which is a little bit surprising. And I love bullet journaling because it's really friendly for my ADHD. There are 3 basic necessities to bullet journaling. You need an index, you need a daily log, and then you have your projects. You don't even technically need a monthly log, although I find monthly logs to be really helpful. And I'll walk you through what all of these look like. But my favorite thing about the bullet journal is that I can work on my grocery list and stuff for my family while working on my book, all in the same place. So that is what is really great about a bullet journal, and I'm going to walk you through everything, so just stay tuned. This is the index for my bullet journal, and I used to kind of ignore these, but then I read the book, The Bullet Journaling Method, and it's so nice to know exactly what page my reading list is on or my budgeting. I just know where everything is. My monthly logs fill up pretty quick, but this is the only one that doesn't have any private information on it. And then monthly logs, I have 2 different sides for each monthly log. I have the days of the month on the left and just like a snapshot of what's going on, and then I have my to-do list on the other side and everything I need to do. And we can make up a daily log just by referencing our monthly log and putting everything in there and just making sure we get all of our habits in there and everything. So it's really simple and really straightforward and has completely changed how I manage my time. actually going to start working on the planning process. And I love analog planning because frankly it is much easier for me to deal with and for me to cope with than trying to organize everything digitally. I just cannot tolerate that with my ADHD. I need paper and pencil so that there are zero distractions. So that is why I use a composition notebook. That's all you need. You could just use one of the 50-cent ones from Walmart. You don't need anything special in order to organize your book. And then what I like to do is organize everything by topics and subtopics. And so I have a different section for the different topics. I don't know if you can see this. It says characters. And then in each section, I have an entire page devoted to the primary characters. My protagonist actually gets 2 pages because she's so important. And this is my first time writing a romantasy novel, so for each of my love interests, I just did 1 page, but I think in the future I would devote 2 pages to each of them because they are just as important as the main character. They are essentially main characters themselves, and then you'll also want to devote 2 pages to your antagonist. And I do this for each topic that is important to my world building process. I have an entire video on the grapes method of world building. I'll have it linked in the top corner here. But the main thing is that you have a different section for every piece of your world building. So characters, magic, your geography, your religion, everything that's important to your world building structure, have a different topic for it, and then just devote pages to it. You can leave some blank pages, like I left 4 or 5 blank pages in the character section, and then just keep in mind you're going to need more character pages than you might for religion unless you want to get really in depth into your religions, or unless you have like 20 different religions in your story. You also have to think about what's the most important thing in your story. So if you're doing a lot of political intrigue in your story, you're going to want to devote a lot more time to your factions than to your religions, for example, because for political intrigue, it is so important that you understand what each faction wants. With that being said, let's get started on the writing process. If you don't know, every time I give you a keyword or a key sentence, it's part of a haiku. So you'll need to watch the videos in order to get all of your keywords. So today's key sentence is witnesses to tales untold. Be sure to put that down in the comments so that I know that you've watched it this far. And now I want to talk about something really personal to me. And that's kind of why I've waited until the evening to bring this up, because I just felt like it was cozier and just a better vibe for what I wanted to talk about. And that is giving yourself grace. Recently, I've been struggling with a lot of depression. It's been very hard to sit down and write and just stay consistent because the words don't come to me and it's so hard to focus, and it's just been really overwhelming to live in the world that we live in with ADHD. Like, it just feels bigger. Like, all of my emotions just feel huge, and I want to tell you a story. So I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and when I was younger, the river would be flowing year-round. Maybe not so much in the winter, but year-round we would have water, and we'd have at least 4 feet of water in the river. It's been so hard for me recently driving. I drive past the river basically every day. It's kind of hard to live in Albuquerque and not drive past the river at some point in your day, but I drive past the river and it's dry. In fact, it's so dry that vegetation has started growing on the riverbed. Every day, there are ads telling us to consume, or brands telling us to consume, and they sell us moral and ethical principles. Like, it's not, I'm buying this brand because I like it anymore. It's, I'm buying this brand because I like what they stand for, and it gets to be really overwhelming. And the main thing I'm trying to get at right now is that it's okay. Whatever is making it hard for you to write your novel, you need to give yourself grace. It's okay. You have my permission to not beat yourself up if you don't make your word count one day. And you have my permission to eat the tub of ice cream if that's what's going to make you feel better, because this is a hard world that we live in. It gets harder and harder every day because there's always something newer and better. You're always failing to be good enough. And so I want you to know that no matter what you're doing or what you're achieving with your word count, you are good enough. Even if you haven't started writing your book, just wanting to write that book, that's amazing. So if there's anything that you take away from this video, I want you to take away this. Trust the process and trust in God's timing, and go and write that book that you're being called to write. Be sure to subscribe to my channel to raise your quill in support of human-made literature, and if you want to hear all about how you can write a compelling love interest, then be sure to click the video on the screen. Thank you so much for watching this far, and I will see you next week. Bye bye!